Welcome to Wrinkled Wisdom. Episode 31 is with Bill Kinsala. We did this episode down on our tour in Texas. His story really talks about mentorship and also developing a business out of just an idea. You're going to see what he accomplished without a college degree, just curiosity and drive. We talk about mentorship and how valuable that is to the younger generations. And really, that's what our podcast is based on. Finding value in the older generation stories. There's always something that you can relate with and learn from. So I hope you appreciate Bill's episode. We really enjoyed our time with him down in Texas, and we hope to see him again. Well, Bill, I appreciate you having us out to your compound out here in Boz, Texas.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
Very pleased to have you.
I appreciate that. We, it's funny how things just work out. Because when we first started this, a guy that I think I can speak for him on this really looks up to you, reached out to us, and he said, "You gotta come interview the Wizard of Boz." and when he told me that nickname, I was like, "The Wizard of Boz," and he's like, "Yeah, this guy Bill." He said he's just one of the best people I've ever met, and he told me a little bit more about you, and the first thing he brought up is that you spend a lot of time mentoring kids or people. It sounded like you teach them how to work on things and build things, and I guess maybe attack life with a curious mind, it seemed like. And for me, that's probably part of why I do this, is because I had mentors and a grandfather that I really looked up to, and I think it is so important to capture the generational wisdom, but also not just the wisdom, but the mechanisms you guys had in place that, got you to that wisdom, the curiosity. It's picking up the papers. Sorry. But we'll clean that up. I noticed in the notes, I appreciate you putting this together. We're talking about mentorship and generational wisdom, and I noticed that you pointed out here that it's sad to see society lose skill sets. What did you mean by that? Or how do you observe that? I guess, where did that come from?
Everything is throwaway now.
Yeah.
You have trouble buying parts in a parts house because those folks have no skill of a car whatsoever. They know how to look up the part. If you give them the right year of the car, maybe you'll get the right part. But for mechanics and general, somebody can fix anything, those guys just don't hardly exist anymore.
Yeah.
Somebody's willing to dig into it, see what's really wrong.
Yeah. Why do you think that is, as you've observed times change? What do you think brought us to that? You think it was the demand of time of people, like they're distracted, or?
I think that could certainly be a portion of it. I didn't have anything else to do when I was growing up. So having something to work on was quite a pleasure. I still have an old motor that's up there on that shelf that was my first one that I bought for 75 cents from a scrap yard and took it apart and put it together in the 60s. But I enjoy it. And with the kids and the kids I mentor, I try to teach them how things work, not how to work on things. Because once you understand how something works, then that same part moves on to other things. So if it's an air conditioning system, now he can work on his air conditioner at home, or he can work on a refrigerator, or at least know something about it, and how to do it. Charging systems, electrical systems, all the same. If you know how it works, it's better than being able to work on it.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I deal with this every day, because I do controls automation for data centers. And so, but I came from wind energy and wind turbines. And when you understand the theory or how any of that stuff works, you can go into any control system. It's all the same. But I would say the devices are different, right? And the PLC programming is different, but the way they function and talk back and forth and communicate or operate is the same as far as it goes.
Exactly. It's common for me to use data loggers here in the shop, and I teach the kids how to hook up the computer, how to use the data logger to see what's going on with something, to watch the electrical sine wave from it.
What do some of the kids say to you when they're learning these things?
Well, I don't know that I remember the remarks. When it's happening, they think it's kind of boring. But what happens is later, they don't realize what they learned, but suddenly they know what's going on somewhere and nobody else knows.
Right. It's amazing what the value is in that. It's too bad that you see kids, I bet you video games play a large part in that.
I have never played a video game, and I have never been to an ATM.
You've never been to an ATM?
No.
Man, I wonder how much money you've saved in fees.
Oh, well, maybe some in fees, but having cash in your pocket's trouble sometimes.
Yeah, that's the truth. What's kept you from going to an ATM, or how did you,
I just carry cash.
Yeah. Just always the way it was?
Mm-hmm. Carry my billfold in my left rear pocket, and I've never lost one.
Man. So what's your response to the homeless people when they ask for cash? Because cash is old news, man. Debit cards though.
I'm torn on those.
Yeah.
There's some out there that can work, and there's some that can't work.
Yeah.
And right now I see people that are working and they can't make it.
Yeah.
The inflation has eaten them out of their house and home.
Yeah. What has that been like for you to see the cycles of inflation throughout the decades?
Well, I can remember when it hurt a lot more than it does today.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s.
Yeah.
It almost put me out of business, because I was undercapitalized, struggling, and it hurt, but I persevered.
Right.
I stayed with it. I did whatever I could do to make dollars.
Okay.
And I didn't waste any.
And talking about putting you out of business, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your business and when you started it and how did Americase come about?
Well, it's one of those great stories. I started it in my garage at home in 1984, and I needed a gun case to carry my fancy clay target skeet gun in. And I didn't like the way the system worked. A dealer couldn't make any money buying wholesale because the manufacturer sold everybody wholesale if they had a federal firearms license. So what if we were to do this right and the dealers were protected? You had to have a place of business with a storefront to buy wholesale. So that's how I started the business. But I started backwards. I didn't have an education. I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So I capitalized all of my toys. I had worked really hard. I worked every bit of overtime I could work for several years, and I had some cash stacked up and some toys. I sold 2 Harley Davidsons, and that was my seed money.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd bought those cheap and built them from pieces. And first case cost me $10,000. And that was a hell of an investment for 1984.
Oh, I bet.
In tooling.
Yeah.
In tooling for it. And then I bought the materials, and one by one, I'd put them together, and I'd go sell 5, and I'd come back and I'd build more, and I'd just keep going and keep rolling until it got bigger and bigger and bigger.
How were you marketing these cases in the 80s?
Through the shooting sports magazines.
Okay.
Which would be clay target magazines. I actually ran one in Peterson's hunting magazine, which yielded a pretty good bit of business. But the other was to go to outdoor events.
Yeah.
And pitch my stuff.
Open them up.
Mm-hmm.
And how was the response to that?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of miles of driving to California and setting up an exhibit.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the outdoor exhibits as bad as I did the big indoor exhibits because I'm not a fan of trade unions. And when they tell me I can't bring my stuff in the door because it's rolling, you're going to have a mad camper.
Yeah, okay?
Yeah. Anyway, I toted it in, and later in life, I had both shoulders overhauled.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
So many loads in and out of buildings by hand.
So you manifested this idea you had. So you saw a problem or something that you thought was not efficient.
A need, yes.
A need. Even though, and it was a hobby.
It was a challenge, yes.
And you took the opportunity to create a solution. What would you say to some of the younger generations who maybe talk themselves out of doing something like that? Maybe they have these ideas.
if they talk themselves out of it, they may not be built for it to begin with.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
Now,
You're making me feel better about myself because I don't talk myself out of much.
Okay. Yeah.
And sometimes that's a bad thing.
If they want somebody to help them, then they need to let somebody know and see if somebody can enlist help for them. One of the things in the very beginning was I knew I wanted to build this company into a manufacturing company. It wasn't about building gun cases. It never was about building a gun case. It was about building a company.
Yeah.
And gun cases was one of the things that we would build.
Right.
And that's what got us started.
Right.
So through the years, we did a lot of custom manufacturing. Anything that came along that somebody needed somebody to do it, and we had the means, we took the job.
Good for you. No challenge that you weren't willing to take a stab at.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
I might have should have backed up.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, what's a project that you looked back on that you're the most proud of, or do you have a couple you could tell us about, challenges that you took on and maybe failed at?
Well, I don't remember any that I failed at yet, okay? Maybe a particular product in a particular market maybe didn't work, but the aerospace industry has been the most challenging for us. One is because of the high standards that they have and for the competition that's there. So there was a deal where in 2008 or so, Value Jet had crashed in a swamp in Florida and buried in the mud, and they couldn't hardly find the airplane. So what caused it was a case of chemical oxygen generators in the cargo hold, which was illegal to be in there, had a spare tire on top of it. So the cargo hold, so I had to learn all about aircraft, all about the people. The cargo hold has halon gas fire suppression. It's not meant to put a fire out. It's meant to prolong it long enough to get from the middle of an ocean to someplace to land.
Okay.
So that's what all these standards were based on, is the cargo hold being able to go for 2 hours.
Okay.
And that's how far it was to land from anywhere. I think it's 2. I may be off a little bit. So the halon gas came on in that aircraft, except it couldn't put out a fire that's producing its own oxygen.
Right. Because halon removes oxygen,
it
right?
would
Isn't that
remove
the
it
idea
normally,
of it?
but we're talking about cases of pure oxygen coming out. And when this apparatus goes off, it gets to 600 degrees. So it sets its own fire when it happens. So they had 24 of them in a box, so one went off, then the next 2, the next 2, the next 2, until the whole thing had gone. And I read the NSTB's report. It's gruesome.
Yeah.
What happened to those pilots in that aircraft.
Oh, that's too bad. And so when you had that, how did that come across your desk to look at? You must have built a reputation or...
Oh, absolutely. I think we did. We were working for the airline companies and making cases for what they call rotables. All aircraft use the same parts. They all have to have parts in the warehouse. They have to be able to get the warehouse part somewhere in case there's aircraft on the ground. They loan each other parts all the time. So the case is one of the ways they maintain ownership, and one way they can quickly get it, throw it on cargo, and it's gone. They don't have to package it or anything. It's ready to go. And then the core part, the old part, can come back for rebuilding.
Oh, okay.
So I had a good relationship with Southwest Airlines based in Dallas. And to get in the door into politics, I volunteered to repair any case they had, no matter who manufactured it. If it's broke, we'll fix it. So that got us in the door, and it got us a good education about other people built their cases, and be able to point out the weak points in all of them, and be able to build a better product.
Yeah, you were doing like some opposition research.
Yes.
Yeah. Good
so
for you.
That's been an issue, that we've built products that have no obsolescence in them.
Right.
They literally last a lifetime.
Yeah, good for you.
So that was part of the HM224 thing. They balked at the cost of the product being, $1,300 or $1,400 compared to a $400 product. But what they didn't count on was return on investment. They were going through those others every couple of years, and they get these, they're done.
Yeah.
They last a lifetime.
What? So that is, it's interesting you bring that up because you hear about, you're talking to we'll call them the old timers, but they always say, things that used to be built lasted so much longer, and then now we have a lot of these products that come out where they have a end date. It's manufactured, it's engineered into them so they can sell more. What does it mean to you? Obviously you have very high integrity, but what does it mean to you to produce a product that good? Like what do you believe it is about you that strives for that and doesn't necessarily look at the financial gain?
I couldn't find it in myself to build a cheap product.
Yeah.
I build it for them like I would want one built for myself. Not necessarily the best thing to do business-wise, but it's worked out because as we get growth, new airlines and new things come along, we sell products to those, and we get into doors to do other things now.
Yeah. Speaking of getting in new doors, since I just met you in person today, and I work in data centers, and finding out that you build the cases that we put our BBUs from the servers in when they go bad. How did that door open for you?
I had basically retired from the company when this took place, but we're talking about the tutoring of people and the sharing of education. So we all knew that we should be able to put a lot of things in one case. That's what Americase was based on, making cases that fit items, not making items fit a case type thing. So we'd gone through the lithium battery deal with the DOT, and I was right in the very beginning of that, and that was right up my alley. So I trained the staff about lithium batteries. I helped them understand the tests that we do and how they rate the batteries, and basically rated an energy density. That's just how powerful it is the energy density. And the higher the energy density is, the more explosive it is most of the time.
And do you mean by milliamp hours? Or is that would that be a unit that you could
would
use?
Be, milliamp hours. Or milliwatt is where the density is.
Okay.
Yeah. Watt
that makes sense.
Yeah, watt's the power.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted...
I learned, I shared. I always would love to teach somebody to do my job and me not have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I did a very good job with them.
Okay. And you were able to get them trained up, and then as industry changed and types of demands have changed, you had done a good enough job of, I would say, mentoring or training.
Absolutely.
To get the younger generations to stay up.
They did the the battery backup case all on their own.
And that's the
BBU case.
The BBU case, okay. And then speaking of lithium ion batteries, I see here the Samsung Galaxy Note 7. I think we all remember when if you had one of those phones, they weren't letting you on an airplane with it.
That's exactly right. And of course, that disaster built an industry for us, because before then you could pretty well ship lithium batteries any way you wanted to.
Right.
You'd see a video of some guy sticking a forklift fork through a pallet of batteries and putting it in an aircraft. Well, it didn't catch on fire till an hour later.
Right.
But anyway, so that made a market for us. And the fact that we solved that one so quick made believers out of them.
Yeah. I love that you said that they made the market for you. So the market, it developed right into your wheelhouse.
And we just happened to be ready.
That's remarkable when you think about that you were able to build a company in a way that you're, I would say, so malleable to so many needs.
Mm-hmm. We're situation critical for a lot of people. They have to have our product.
Okay.
Some of the other things that we do, we manufacture a lot of aircraft parts that go in airplanes. Okay, and we may be a sole vendor in some cases, but we do what they want us to do. They want to see our financials. They want to see our plant safety. They want to know that we're not going to just up and fold up or blow away in a storm someday.
Right.
So we're able to do all of that.
Right.
And there's standards out there now of that, and I don't know what they're called.
Yeah.
But
I don't know either.
But it's how you're valued in your stability.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. If you're going to make an investment like that with somebody, especially with aircraft. Well, I feel a little bit better flying now that I've met you and know your integrity level with some of these airplane parts. But yeah, speaking of the airplane situation, have you looked into the issues with Boeing at all? Do you pay attention to that kind of stuff?
I followed them. We all inside knew what was wrong when that 787 battery was burning up 10 years ago.
Right.
There was a charger mismatch for the batteries. Okay. Same thing with Samsung. So power is watts. So so milliamps times volts equals watts. So Samsung wanted to get more power out of the battery, so they raised the voltage from 3.7 to 4.2. And their membrane inside it didn't handle it. It arced through it. Okay. That's where they failed. They didn't test the product well enough.
Right. And for some of these people that don't understand electricity, like voltage is like pressure, right?
Yes.
So if you up your pressure, you lower your amperage, you still have a lot of pressure.
I tell my students, it works the same in water, air, and traffic. Speed is the pressure. And the width of the road is the amperage.
Yeah. I like that. I haven't heard the traffic analogy before, but I like that a lot.
I try to explain it to traffic cops sometimes. You're slowing us down, buddy.
I was trying to figure out your guys' traffic situation here today because I haven't driven in Texas in 12 years. And man, I'm there. The signs are saying, go slow or slow down. Something you're already in Texas. And I'm thinking, man, isn't going slow, isn't it all in comparison? Because that person's going 90. And they're on me, so isn't 85 slow?
If you're going around Austin and you're not going 90, you're in the way.
Man, that's something. I think that's what I was just wondering about since Texas is so big in the oil business, I was like, maybe that's their way of getting more gas sold is they just up the speed and down the miles per gallon and then they sell more fuel or something.
Well, one of the things that's changed there, even though you have $3 a gallon gasoline, time is expensive now. So to heck with the gas mileage, I need to be where I need to go to do my job.
I like that. I'm trying to make my time a little bit more valuable. I'm working on it. I tell you what, doing stuff like this though, it's worth it. It's weight and memory. Like, just the memories that we've been doing, screwing around with this, it's fun. Like, just being able to go visit with people. I kind of feel like it's kind of a lost thing because, a lot of the things you're talking about today, just with the way you're building like the business and the way you operate, and how you're tackling all these problems. What I see with the younger generations, is that's kind of lost. The visiting with each other is lost, but also, like you said, the solution, finding the solution is lost when you see an issue because, and I'm guilty of it now, is I'm prime day in the part. I'm looking up and I'm just grabbing a part and swapping it out, and it's.
In my bio, I list myself as a problem solver.
Yeah, I like that. You mentioned here, we were talking about your business. You said in these notes, my best days are when a student or employee beats me to my game. What does that mean to you?
When they outthink me or they come to the solution faster.
Yeah. It makes your day?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I love that. You see it as like you've done your job.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just with the BBU box, that is a work of art.
Yeah.
Now, they changed the whole system for the data center, though.
Yeah.
So now instead of having cardboard boxes and having carts and all this stuff and boxes being shipped in, now the BBUs come in the case. They can get 400 of them in a trailer truck load where they could only get 100 before with all the cardboard. They had to pay somebody to unpackage it. They had to get rid of all the waste. Now all that's gone. They come into the data center. They stack. They don't take up any space. So now you can get enough BBUs for the whole thing down one wall, and they're forkliftable or they're manhandleable. Then the biggest thing that happened, and I don't know if it was AWS or not, but their insurance carrier, which made them do off-site storage for batteries before because of the danger, now lets them store on site because these boxes are fire rated.
Yeah. Good for you.
So that paid for the box.
Right.
You know.
Right. you know, as much money as they have tied up into those, you know, I'm gonna talk to some people where I'm at, because just the other day I was tripping over cardboard boxes because we go in right now. We're going in through the logistics areas of these data centers, and it's where they're bringing in the racks. And of course, the servers come without the BBUs, and they had a bunch of cardboard piled up. I mean, it was piled up, and they didn't take the trash. They were bringing in like 100 racks a day. There was cardboard stacked outside, inside. And I'm wondering if your cases are not getting up to our region yet.
Could be. Now, something else that we've done for these cases is they're convertible. So somewhere down the road, your BBU changes size. We take the guts out of it and redo it.
Oh, okay.
How's that for screwing yourself out of the job?
Right,
You know?
I like that. I like that.
We consider ourselves partners,
right,
with our customers.
I like that. Long-term investment, because if their business and your business depend on each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Going back, I'm curious, going back to your childhood, how were you always this way? Do you remember as a kid, or what came about that? Was there something that happened that
I don't
got
know
you to be
anything happened, just a situation of economics and family, where the family was set up. But
yeah,
it's like Da Vinci's a painter, okay?
Yeah.
You can't teach anybody to paint like that guy paints. It's in his blood. It's in his mind. This mechanical stuff, it's built in.
Yeah.
I just feel engineering when I look at things.
Yeah.
You know, I can know where that's going to fail.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that.
So I've been that way. And when other kids were watching cartoons, I was getting a junk radio out of somebody's trash, take it apart, see what was in it.
Yep. I like that. I'm not saying I'm anywhere on your level, but you're taking me. I remember my childhood. It was still before the internet, and I never did the cartoon thing because there was just too much cool stuff going on outside. You know, so it makes you think that how some people they have God-given gifts, and you feel like yours was just engineering.
It's absolutely.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. If somebody was working on a car, I could not stay away from it.
Right. I like that. You said you also shot shotguns, clays.
Yeah, clay targets.
Sport clays.
Mm-hmm.
That's also engineering, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So have you found anything? So I'm curious, because this is going to, just for my own personal curiosity. When you look at like movies and productions and things, do you see the engineering side of it?
Oh, yeah. I see all the stuff they fake, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can't be.
Yep. It's just one of those things where I wonder, because I'm like, we love Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
And I love taking my kids, because I watched Bob Bodine speak once, and he talked about how a kid should always witness greatness. And so I go to Disney World because you get to see like the beauty of humanities there. You have some of the most incredible architecture, which engineering is what it is, but with a level of art to it. And then the music, which music is all sound engineering. You know, everything that goes on there and that's the way I see it. And people have been like, you know, like, man, that's kind of weak. You're kind of a 37-year-old man wanting to go to Disney, but that's the way I see it. I see it as in this incredible engineering feat. It's one of the best well-oiled ran machines I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's magic. No, nothing short of magic, especially that they make you believe what you see.
Yeah.
You know, it looks real. Interesting that we made wardrobes for Barney the dinosaur. We made like 100 of those.
In your company?
At Americase. I mean, it's a carrying case. We make carrying cases for all well tools, urns for ashes, whatever somebody wants a case for, we can make it. But Barney the dinosaur box was huge. Yeah. And it was a costume that it had a hook in the top of it, and they had a hoist in the case. They pulled the costume up, and the actor walked in and got under it, and they set it on top of them. Yeah. You know, and then there was a place for the cooler. There was a fan in it that dried it out if they perspired in it. It was quite an ordeal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How does that come about?
Yellow Pages back then, probably.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Have you built anything like out of, well, I mean, you've built a lot of really cool things, but have you ever done something like abstract? Like, do you do any metal art or anything like that?
No, I haven't. The hot rods are my metal art. If you
Yeah.
look inside there, you'll see the massaging that's gone on to make it a fine oil machine.
Yeah, those things are beautiful. Maybe if we have some pictures of them. Maybe we can, if you're all right with us, post them. We might post them on there. That way people know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's remarkable. Looking back on, you said you're semi-retired, right? Pretty much.
I'm retired from the company. Period.
Right, from the company. What are some of your proudest moments as far as team building or being invested in your employees? I know you talked about that a little bit.
When my son took over and started doing things, he had a good education.
Yeah.
Yeah. He Magma from UNT in business, and he started the good team building part of it, and he brought that along with him.
Yeah, I like
Took
that.
over where I was about to my end.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not what my job was. My job is to figure out how to do things.
Right.
So
I bet that was pretty proud. Like,
sure it was.
Yeah.
Still is.
Yeah, I bet. I don't think people realize when you own a business, at least from what I've seen with family and friends that own businesses, is that's a pretty unique dynamic to have a generational changeover and it still go as good as it did before.
It just kept on growing.
Yeah, it really takes like remarkable nourishment,
well,
I would call
fortunately,
it.
I was able to get it to a spot where they could really get turned loose with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Good for you. Yeah. He must be pretty proud of you too.
I hope so.
I met him, but yeah, that's something to take over your dad's business and get it ripping.
Well, he worked there for a long time. He was 4 years old when I started, so I drug him along.
Yeah.
He was there all the time, you know.
Yeah. What are some other things you've done outside of work that you are proud of? Or
well, see, I've crewed on a Salt Flats land speed car before, a couple of different ones there. I've been a crew member of
oh, you're all right. Are you watching Wheel of Fortune over there? No, you're all right. It sounds fun, whatever it is. I like it. You crewed a Salt Flats speed car?
I worked on the cruise.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm good friends with a lot of the name racers out there, like Mickey Thompson's son, Danny Thompson's.
Yeah.
Good friend. Drag boats.
Oh, yeah.
Top alcohol drag boats.
Yep.
0 to 210 miles an hour, 900 feet.
That's wild.
It takes about 3.5 seconds.
Yeah. What's the fastest salt flat car that you've worked on?
415 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh. That's cruising. Why can't I think of her name? Jessie. What was the girl that was just trying to beat the...
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Jessie, yeah. That was too bad.
Mm-hmm.
How fast was she trying to go?
Over 300, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what... She wanted to be the fastest woman on earth or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was too bad. That's Salt Flats. That's what we just flew into Salt Lake City today. Mm-hmm. That's wild. How far is that shot?
It's 5 miles long.
5 miles.
Yeah. Then you got a lot of ways to shut down too.
Right. Are you using a jet engine on those cars that you're working on?
No.
No.
Nitromethane and an aluminum block Hemi.
Yeah, a Hemi. What was that commercials running around like? It's a Hemi.
Well, you know, in the 60s, I had a Honda motorcycle, a Honda 50.
Yeah.
It was a Hemi.
Yeah.
Honest to goodness.
Hemispherical head.
Hemispherical head, canted valves and all.
Yeah. The little trail bike, was it a 50 trail bike? Or
no, it was a sport 50. It would run 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you grew up right here
mm-hmm.
in this town. You've been here your whole life.
Yeah.
What's kept you here?
I love it here. And my good friends.
Yeah.
Lots of good friends.
Yeah.
Now, until it's really had a growth lately, but 10 years ago, you couldn't go through town without running across somebody you knew.
Yeah.
Okay. It's changed a little bit now. But I graduated in 70. A lot of my classmates are still alive and still here.
Yeah. And you guys have stayed tight over the years?
Sure.
What is it about the people, Texas it has this, what would you call it? Reputation, I guess. What does the reputation of Texas mean to you?
Well, I love it. And one is that we're friendly.
Yeah.
People who move here, I welcome them here. You know, I hate to see it grow, but why not just welcome them?
Right. I like that. That's something we don't see as much up in the Northwest. It's not as, and I miss that because I used to live in Florida and I've traveled around it. And it's like, I always wonder what it is up there that people are just maybe bitter about something. I don't know if it's the weather in the winter or something, but they just they're not like that. Like it's, if you move in, your neighbors aren't coming over bringing you a basket, of cookies and inviting you over and things like that anymore up there. And I wonder what it is.
Well, it's changing here also.
Is it?
Yes.
I wonder have you ever thought much into it? You ever think about those kind of things, or you just?
Yeah, I do. And I wonder why our neighbors are not more friendly.
Yeah.
I've certainly given them opportunities to be.
Right. Yeah, I believe that. I can tell you, we really appreciate your friendliness that, just over the last months. It's really unique nowadays with social media and being able to connect with people. And you can kind of just see little clips of what they're up to, like pictures of you here in the shop with the kids working on cars. And then, you're able to, even if you and I just talked here and there a few times, but you were, right away showing interest that I was like, hey, I wanted to sit down and visit with you. And then I noticed you kind of you started liking some of my pictures with my family and our hunting. And I was liking and it's, what I loved about that is it's so genuine, like the I would say the activities that we're involved in my family and seeing you, it's very relatable where there's camaraderie, it's family, it's productive. And I just think that kind of connected me with you, or it even increased my curiosity to come visit you.
Well,
and
good.
And it just so it kind of was some of the driving factor to get me down here, because I promised, I asked you to do it and I owed that to you. And
well, I told you I would do it.
Yeah, and you told me, and so it's I think there needs to be a little bit more of that out there. I think people need to be more, if you're going to say, something like, hey, I'm going to have you over for dinner, or let's go do something, then you make sure and you do it. And even if you have to harass them a little bit, just because you told them that you would do it and get it scheduled and get it done. And I think that's where those long-term friendships last.
And I run across it different ways. I buy and sell off a marketplace.
Oh, yeah.
There's some good buys there for junk, and I rehabilitate it and share it with somebody else if they can make some money off of it. And I made a deal to pick up a lawnmower from a guy this morning, and I've been working with him all week.
Yeah.
He sold it last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you want. I love Marketplace too, but what do you feel about when that happens to you? How does that make you feel?
Well, I wasn't that happy about it because I'd invested a lot of time in him already.
Right.
But anyway, that's the way it goes. So
yeah,
I won't condemn everybody because he was that way.
Right. But that shows that you care about other people's time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I like that. I always feel bad. Like I always have people that, you're dealing with stuff these days, and people will say, they'll always be like, well, I'm sorry. Like, sorry I didn't text you back in 10 minutes. And I'm like, don't ever be sorry about that. Like, I know you're busy. I'm not the most important thing. I figure you're probably doing something too. And I always wonder, it's like, man, are people out here being mean to people because they're not getting back to them in 10 minutes or something?
I can say I get impatient sometimes.
Yeah?
On a return.
Right. Well, if I don't message you back, I'm busy.
Okay.
No. So what else are some things that when you look back, I wanted to talk to you about these packages for the Samsung phones.
That was an interesting story that it could be a movie made on just that one thing, I believe, because we knew that Samsung was having the failure, and we were in negotiations with them over it, and we didn't hold them over a barrel, but we were the only people that could do it.
Yeah.
But what made us the value to them is that we could stop what we were doing, and we could convert and build that product for them and get it out the door in a hurry.
Yeah. And they needed it.
They needed it right then, and we worked 24/7. We couldn't find enough employees locally to run the new facility, which was 14 miles over. Couldn't find a facility here.
Right.
Our facility was full. So they bussed Samsung employees from Northside, from Richardson, 3 shifts of them, to Ennis, Texas, to help us man that thing while we kept her going and found and trained our own employees.
That's remarkable. So, and this Samsung issue, they had lost $14 billion
On
of
their
stock market
price.
value.
Yes, $14 billion.
And you were ahead of the curve on this. You saw the issue. This was when the phones were catching on fire.
Yes.
And you saw that it was going to be an issue. What?
I was already.
Were you looking at it as a business thing, or did you?
Well, yeah.
You
yeah,
know,
I
like
look
in
at
a
it as
sense,
business thing.
but there seems to be something like aligned with your business model that you told us this already, but like you're partners with your customers, your business partners. But that's
I was already buying batteries and blowing them up right where we sit.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 5-gallon buckets, keep them from going through the ceiling.
Yeah.
You know, and it's quite spectacular sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's just remarkable that your business is built on kind of saving people, or, it's not saving people, but it's very, it's kind of a protective, or what would you say? Like putting redundancies into people's business, putting safety precautions in there. And I think that's pretty impressive. Not a lot of people have that integrity, or that, what would you say? It's like their, was that kind of your mission statement, do you think? Or what was your mission statement?
Well, we're mission critical for a lot of folks. I don't know that I ever had a mission statement.
Yeah. If you could make one up on the fly, what would it be?
We're mission critical for them.
Yeah.
If they need us, we'll be there. Anytime you see Air Force One or Marine One, it's got one of those oxygen bottle cases inside it.
That you made.
That we make. We made the breathing air shipping containers for the 787 2 years before the plane ever flew. Now, I never really thought about this as learning the industry. They have to have parts worldwide before that first plane flies in case it gets somewhere and it breaks.
Right.
So they have full warehouse full of parts around the world before it ever flies the first time.
Oh, good for you. That's remarkable. You ever sit back and just be like, do you ever soak it all in, or you just keep grinding?
I don't know how to answer that one. I guess I just keep on grinding.
Yeah. That's something that's something I hear consistently with people that have built successful businesses. Because you know how, I don't know about you, but maybe, and I think it's probably a bad characteristic of mine, is and I think a lot of people that I talk to, it's like, they're always like, oh, we want to get there. Like, we want to get there. But every successful person I've ever talked to, they never get there. They're always evolving. They're always moving on to the next thing.
I think that I qualify for that statement. I'm still evolving.
Yeah.
Still have ideas.
I like that. What kind of ideas you got that you're working on?
Oh, one of them is a clutch for a Polaris Ranger.
Yeah.
The engine revs way too fast. And what you get is what you get. You don't have any adjustment on it, okay? No gears to shift, nothing. So I've come up with a system that I think that we can bias the clutch a little bit. It's just a mechanism of weights and springs that work against each other. The faster you go, the weights take over.
Right.
The slower you go, the springs take over.
Kind of like the old centrifugal governors or whatever?
Yes.
Something similar?
Yes. So what I've come up with is a way to add pressure or take pressure away from the springs.
Okay. Well, when you get that whipped out, we got to talk, because you're finding the solution to one of my problems. We deal with that at hunting camp with our Polaris Ranger side by side, and it's a pet peeve of mine. So how far are you into that project?
I have 2 clutches here, and I have all the drawings. And I was hoping maybe one of the Americase engineers would come help me draw it, somebody that does that, but I can't get them here, so I may have to hire somebody.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So there's two ways I think I can make it work. One would be pneumatic by adding air pressure, taking air pressure away. Another one might be an electromagnet
Yeah.
to pull it in.
I like that.
So I've already calculated how much wire it takes to make an electromagnet.
Right.
That the alternator on the Ranger will handle.
Can handle it.
Yeah, can handle it.
Yeah, I like that. Electromagnets are wild.
Sure.
I actually wanted to design, I don't know, this is something you might even be interested in. GE wind turbines. Well, and a lot of manufacturers of wind turbines have they yaw, right? They have a puck bearing system yaw. And what happens is if they get loose at all, they'll sit there and they'll wiggle with the wind. Well, it wears out the brakes on the motors because they're actually just using the brakes on the fans, on the fans that are on the yaw drives. And I'm like, why do we not just pull these yaw pucks out and build an electromagnet that has it can have rubber when it hits the bearing or the slew ring, and just make it so it threads into where the pucks were and let it rip.
Sometimes they need a new eye on things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's incredible what I'm curious how that'll work out, because that's not just a player side-by-side issue. That's just that clutch
Period.
type of clutch in general. That's interesting. What other bucket list items you got? You got anything you want to build, like on a bucket list that's... or you want to go somewhere?
I've designed some wind turbines of my own that I think I like build it out of junk instead of it being $37,000.
Yeah.
Convert some truck alternators into making the power.
Yeah. And then you just throw an inverter down below and let it rip. I got something for you. I'll have to talk to you about it afterwards with a wind turbine. But I always wondered why we're not throwing weights to the outside when they get to the top, when they break over center, to keep them going. Just run them up a thread. Just keep the weight. Kind of like, remember like them kid bikes back in the early 90s where they had those little beads on the spokes and they'd flip around? They just keep flipping
we had
around.
Baseball cards on a clothespin, but nobody knows what a clothespin is anymore.
Yeah. Did you ever do the pop can thing? Where you'd run the back tire over the pop can?
I don't think so.
Oh yeah, that's what we'd do. And you'd cruise your bike all over and it sounded like a little motor running around. That's what we kids did when they were bored before the internet. Speaking of kids before the internet, growing up, you said you have friends here that you've had for a long time. What did you guys do around here when you were kids?
We had one strip on the main street in town that when we got driver's licenses, we drove up and down that.
Yeah.
But we rode around in the country, rode on the fenders, shooting rabbits at night, and, just all kinds of neat things.
Yeah. Would you have a favorite memory out here?
I've got so many that I don't know that I could put a favorite one.
That's a good answer.
I've got plenty of good memories.
I like that.
It was interesting. You're talking about how long it took for us to get together.
Yeah.
It was 4 or 5 months after I discovered Linda on Match.com before I ever went to meet her. Actually, she thought I was killing myself, and she saved me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a new girlfriend ever 3 or 4 weeks after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she saved me.
I like that. That's good. What do you two do for fun when you're not working?
We travel.
Oh, where do you like to travel to?
We drive small roads anywhere we can. We went all the way to Utah, and we only got on the interstate for a few miles.
Oh, cool.
She's a photographer, so if she wants to stop, it's my job to sense that she needs to stop and get a U-turn.
Yeah. That's neat. Well, next time, don't stop at Utah. You guys just keep driving. You're welcome up at our place anytime. There's some beautiful place. If you've ever been up to the Washington State at all, have you ever been up there? Yes. Oh, it's beautiful. There's so many hidden gems. You guys are welcome anytime. We got the boat races. There's some cool stuff. You can go out there and tour. Can you tour a reactor? You can't tour a Reactor B, can you? Or Reactor B out at Hanford. That is the world's first nuclear reactor. It's right there by us, and you can go out and tour it. I think, yeah.
I'm a firm believer that nuclear power is our cleanest.
We're coming back.
That instead of all these cotton picking wind turbines.
Yeah, we're gonna get along just fine. I got out of wind energy because of that. It didn't take me long, and I thought I can't be a part of this. It went against my gut, and when I got into data centers, I said they're gonna have to go modular nuclear with these. I could see the power demand, going from wind, and I'm like, it would take 50 wind turbines to power this one data, and we had 4 on a campus. And I'm like, we're going to have to figure something out here. And we just invested, in 4 modular nuclear reactors. I think, this could be wrong, but I think the starting capacity is going to be like 320 megawatts with the capacity to get up to 900 megawatts.
Wow.
This project, yeah.
That'll put some wind generators out of business.
Right.
So here we have a beautiful county, lots of good scenery, and they're putting in 1,000-acre solar farms.
Yeah. What a waste.
Yes.
I don't think they realize what solar farms are doing to the landscape, to the animals, to the vegetation. I mean, it's just...
I didn't realize the amount of heat that they absorb and radiate back.
Oh, yeah.
They say on the ground underneath the solar panels are hot.
Yep. Yeah, because if they're fanned out like this, and the UV rays are hitting here, they're hitting the back of these and going down. You're dealing with electrical systems out here in grassland that's dry. In a lot of these areas, they're putting them out. They'll start fires. They get hit by lightning, they're done for.
One of the ones I'm visiting about's over 1,000 acres. They're drilling their own well. They have their own fire department.
Oh, geez. Yeah, you and I could go all day on that type of stuff. I don't get it. I could see if you were building them over parking lots or something flat paneled and they're providing shade for the cars, and because you've already taken up that real estate.
Right.
And what's it hurt to put them 20 feet in the air, or something like that?
Exactly. They don't have to be on the ground.
Right.
This building's covered from the very front all the way to the back.
Yeah.
On one side.
Yeah, and see, that real estate was already taken, and it works.
Exactly.
You have a backup generator probably if something goes wrong. And
3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, a guy can't stop working just because the power goes out on the grid. There's stuff to do.
Well, we used to have a good time with candlelight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did you guys do growing up? Did you have candlelit wood stove dinners often? There's nothing better. I've been fortunate enough to have a few of those over the years. My grandparents still live in a tiny town. It's almost like time stood still there. And the power lines, there's not very many power lines into the town. And if it dumps snow, the power goes out almost every time. And a couple times it happened when we were getting together. I'll never forget that. I bet you that's something that's not.
It doesn't go out here very often. When we had the big freeze several years ago, we were without power for days.
Right. I remember that.
So now I have 20 kW of lithium batteries sitting right out there.
Yeah.
And I've already got the inverters, and I'm putting it all together.
Right.
To make it work.
So are you building a hybrid system for your shop here?
Yeah. Well, house too.
Oh, and the house. Great. That's cool. That's probably not much you can't do. So when Armageddon hits, I know where you live now. We'll be down here. No, this is great. I was wondering, how much time are we at? Okay. 55 right. Okay. I was wondering if we could spend the last bit of this talking about, I guess, what maybe the younger generation means to you and what advice you would give them.
College education is not for everybody, but they certainly need to learn to be self-sufficient, if nothing else. Be smart enough to at least know if you're paying for an oil change, should you be buying that $15 air filter that guy says has got a spot on it or not? They need to be smarter than that. Be able to maintain and keep some of the money that you work for.
Right. I like the way you put that. I should probably take that advice.
I teach them. I teach them to how to make a car get good gas mileage when they're wasting fuel.
Yeah.
And when they're not, how to drive, basically. When to step on the brake and when not to.
Yeah. I like that. I like that so much of your advice is to make it better for the individual. Like when you're self-sufficient, you understand things, you're able to manage the way you, I guess, progress forward. If you're like you said, if you're spending the $15 on the air filter or changing your wipers every time, every third time you go in for an oil change or something, you're really taking yourself back a step, or in a sense where your hard-earned money is getting
I watch
wasted.
it all the time. They don't count their pennies.
Right.
It's just thrown away.
If you could guess how much money you've saved fixing your own stuff over the years, what dollar amount could you throw out there, you think?
Oh, it's not $1 million, but it's more than 10,000. I guess it would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I do my own AC repair. We don't call anybody for AC. We don't call a plumber.
Right.
We don't call an electrician. We don't have a mechanic.
You're the guy. The Wizard of Oz is what I was told. How did that name come about?
Well, I don't know who coined that one.
I see a hand up over there. I love that. Yeah, so that just goes to show if you spend some time, because I think that's probably fair. I figure it's got to be hundreds of thousands in your lifetime.
Yeah, definitely.
And then just think of the stuff. I mean, and then you think of the money you've saved, and then, if it's had compounding interest, in a sense, it's probably a lot of money.
Well, it gives me more beer money.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I know we haven't even had one yet.
Yeah. We have a full-time employee here, and she has pretty decent common sense,
Yeah.
So as we're working on something electrical, I said, come here, I want to show you something boring, but you need to know about it.
Yeah.
So I share with her different things and processes that I'm doing, rehabilitating something that we're going to sell.
And she'll never forget that.
I don't think so.
They don't.
She doesn't forget anything.
Yeah. That's another thing like hitting back on the topic of like mentorship. It's and I've talked to Wayne and Allie about this, but it's I think it's one of the greatest things you can ever experience on both sides. Like whether you're, as I'm getting to the age, I'm getting a little bit older and I've coached kids, but I had people like you. I was very lucky to have my grandpa and some other people. And when I reflect on it now, as I'm getting older, it's remarkable to be on both sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is I really respect that about you. Yeah. Throughout this sitting down with you, I just really respect like your integrity for people and mentorship. You have to have that.
I never had a grandfather, so I really missed that. I'm fortunate I've had some really friends that really were good mentors, and some of them weren't that well educated. They're just dang smart, about things, and some of them are well educated.
Yeah.
But I explained to my grandkids, you're pretty fortunate to have somebody sit down with you.
Yeah.
And let you have a good time.
Yeah. Do you think they know?
I think they do.
Yeah.
Especially the boys. Now, one of the girls is one of the ones that's got the standard shift pickup. She got a 5-speed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She's doing okay with it.
Yeah, isn't that something? That's cool. You have your grandkids out here learning stick shift driving. And
I bought them 2 70s models riding lawnmowers with no decks.
Yeah.
Okay. We got them to run, and they rode the wheels off of them out here. They'd run out of gas. They'd go get a chain. They'd hook it up. They'd drag it back up here, fill it back up with gas.
Yeah.
We looked at it one day, and one of them had quit running for some reason. The kids had Linda's car, had a chain, and they went and got the riding lawnmower and drug it back up to the shop to use the jumper cables to start it. These are little kids now.
They couldn't have figured it out. How old were they then?
Not 10.
Oh, isn't that cool? Yeah. So that means you'd taught them to tow and start.
You had to drive the car, and you knew where the chain was and know where the jumper cables are.
Yeah.
I understand what a choke is on an engine and what it sounds like when it's rich or when it's lean.
Yeah.
And that's something I don't know if there's any point in teaching anybody anymore because it's gone.
Right. You don't see many carbureted machines coming out of unless they're these beautiful restored vehicles that you have out here. I think that's I notice you're a Ford guy.
Oh, yes.
Where did that start?
Well, it's kind of like the IBM Apple thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to convert Apple to IBM and IBM people to Apple.
Yeah.
They just don't mix well. And my first mentor, a guy named Robert Farmer, lived 2 houses down when I was 12 years old. And he was a Ford guy. And I told you that if somebody had the hood up, I was going to be there.
Yeah.
Well, at 12 years old, I'd go down there. We would work till 2 or 3 in the morning out on a blanket in the gravel.
Yeah.
Cold, burning used motor oil in a cup, trying to keep our hands warm, buying old junk cars and fixing them and selling them.
Yeah. That's so neat. See, something you'll never forget with your mentor.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I sure miss him. Even in high school, I was a distributed education student. We didn't have any mechanical classes in Waxahachie, but
Yeah.
we did have DE. And the DE teacher got his 67 Buick overheated and blew the head gaskets. And he sent me home during his period.
Yeah.
I put head gaskets on his car, the junior in high school.
Straight A's all through your senior year, probably in that class.
Yeah, I only studied enough to get by.
Yeah. Yep. I know how that goes. Why do you think that is?
Because
Like if you look back.
I had more time to do mechanical things. That wasn't what I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn physics
Right.
and science.
I just remember it felt so inefficient to me in high school. I just remember because I was like that. I would just I'd test out, skip homework, certain homework because I was just like I don't know why I was that way, but I was screwing around, doing other stuff. I just always thought it was so inefficient. But it probably failed me in the long. I mean, it didn't help me. But you were saying I wanted to go back too. You said you don't have a college degree?
No.
Yeah.
I'll challenge people who do.
I like that.
Most people think I have an engineering degree.
Yeah. Good for you.
But I also study physics and chemistry.
How did you study? What?
Internet.
The internet.
Mm-hmm.
So when the internet came around in the mid 90s, 96, 97, you were dialed in and
You bet.
yeah. What was that like for you? Because yeah, could you describe that transition? Do you remember it? Like what did it mean to you?
Don't you remember the modems going ding, 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 ding?
Oh yeah.
Doing their handshake?
Oh yeah.
I hated that. When I got high-speed internet, that's when it was cool. And learning how to dig it out is an art. Using the keywords to find the tricks to make things come up for you.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that. It's like, it is really unique to look at the internet as like, if you were a curious mind, man, it was a playground. I mean, is engineering, I wonder to think about all the things that have been created. What's something you could give credit to the internet for? What was your first thing you think you built or fixed with the internet? Do you remember?
Well, the HM224 deal, learning all about the aviation society from one end to the other was a good part of it.
And that was in 96?
That was in 2008.
Or 2000?
2008.
2008. Oh, yeah. I was trying to look at when that plane went down. That was in 96. That's right.
Okay. So starting Americase, all of my research had to be done at the library in 1984.
Yeah. And that was that. Now the libraries are kind of the thing of the past.
Mm-hmm. So I did my research through Thomas Register and library and just on foot, digging it out.
Yeah. You miss those days?
No.
No, I couldn't imagine. You probably got too much stuff to work on to be reading them in the library or going to the library anymore. Now you got it all wrapped up in a desktop. Well, I know what I wanted to ask. That takes me to this. What's an invention that's come across besides the internet and the computer, because we're going to tie those two to the same, that over your lifetime that you truly enjoyed or made a big impact?
Man. That's a tough one.
Yeah. It can't be something you invented. It's got to be something else.
I'm at a loss on that one.
All right, we'll get back. We'll be right back. No. Yeah, that I always wonder, because like we've had a lot of cool stuff come across in our generations. What about you, Wayne? So in our yeah.
Okay.
We can't do the internet. Doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's got to be older.
How
than
about
that.
fuel-injected automobiles, computer-operated automobiles and fuel injection?
Yeah.
At first, they were cursed. Now I had to learn. I built my own from scratch. So that's got an aftermarket processor in it. I've added all of the sensors that a car could use to process the data from the engine. It's got temperature probes in each of the cylinders, so I can tell if one's right or not. I can tell if it's overworked.
Right. That's
I can
incredible.
Tell if it's lean.
Yeah. What all do you need to run a fuel injection? You need like your fuel air mixture sensors, your O2 sensors in the exhaust.
Yeah. Typically you use a map sensor so you can sense the load.
Yeah.
A throttle position sensor. Of course, they have to have temperature sensors to know how to fuel it, because the fuel charge changes with temperature.
Yeah.
Timing changes with temperature.
Well, that makes sense. That's incredible. How do you go ahead.
You're probably going to have to repeat this on the audio, but I was wondering if, through all this stuff, if you could give the viewers, maybe the young viewers who are looking into getting into starting their own business or business in general, a principle that you held close that served you well throughout your career.
Okay, I'll ask him. Yeah, I'm just transferring a question. This is from media guy Wayne here. But Wayne was wanting to know what advice you would give to younger generations that are maybe looking at, maybe they don't have the item or the business model yet, but they feel like they're the type of individual that wants to own a business and maybe might not be as studious or.
I think that's a simple one for me, is take can't out of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to say can't in here, because there is a way. It can be done.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
I love that. I was raised that way. Our interviewee that unfortunately just passed away a couple months ago, he said that one. We hear that often. And I think that's probably a lost little life nugget that kids don't hear enough. I believe that. Because really, it truly is remarkable what you can accomplish. So, dumb question, but I got to ask it. Is there ever a time where you caught yourself saying you couldn't, or getting to a point that you can remember?
No, there may be a time where I realized that the yield might not be worth the work I was putting into it.
Yeah, juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not really I can't. That's just it's just not going to work out.
Education. Yeah. If you don't break something, you don't learn anything. So when these boys, the kids that are in here working on something and something goes wrong, I said, that's your opportunity to learn how it works and to repair it.
Yeah.
If it goes easy, if we just take those parts off and bolt new parts on, you've learned nothing.
Yeah. I like that a lot. That's it. I think it's I'm trying to think if you could think of ways that kids, because not everybody has access to a shop or a grandpa with such great skill set, or a mentor or a grandmother that has some skill sets that maybe they're interested in. You said you use the internet. Have you found any great resources that you would recommend, or what things have you done, since you said you didn't have a mentor really, or a grandfather? Like, what did you do to step out of I'm trying to think how to ask this question.
I was in the garage business in the 70s.
Yeah.
And General Motors offered training classes in Dallas, and I didn't miss a one of them.
Okay. So there's trainings out there that a person can look up, find.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of free trainings these days.
Probably so.
Yeah. Where they're trying to sell you the ad on the side of the the web page.
I went to classes and learned how to silk screen for our business. We needed to be able to embellish our products, so I just went to one of the free classes and learned how to silk screen.
Oh, wow.
Made life easy instead
Yeah.
of learning it the hard way. General Motors Training Center was a wealth of information. It was big time
Yeah, I
wealth
bet.
of information. I worked for Xerox for some time as a technical representative, and their training center was in Leesburg, Virginia. And at that time, those machines were all electromechanical. Most of them didn't have a processor in them.
Yeah.
And that was very educational to me.
So they were just a bunch of relays.
And switches.
Relays
yes.
and switches.
Mhm.
That's
I
cool.
worked in a sheet metal manufacturing facility one time right here in Waxahachie.
Yeah.
Made refrigerators,
Oh, okay.
commercial refrigerators. And working a couple of years there on the assembly line was very educational about hand-eye coordination, how to make things go faster.
Yeah. So I guess what I feel I'm taking out of it is you're saying go experience things that interest you, go do things, and you'll gain the experience eventually to.
Well, sure, I worked for free for the education.
Yeah, I like that. I think that one hits. You got any other questions on that? Sorry, Wayne, did I ask that question correctly? Yeah. Well, before we finish up, is there anything else that you'd like to share that you've been anticipating? You know, we've been anticipating us sitting down with you that you thought you'd bring up that maybe we missed?
No, but I'll work on it, and you work on it as well. So if we have an opportunity again, we'll have something to go on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. As we finish up, I just want to once again tell you I really appreciate your hospitality and the communication and everything, and inviting us down to your property. I know that's I feel that shows a lot about your character to just let these punk kids from Washington State show up, you know, out of nowhere and sit down with you, and it means a lot to me because we. You know, like us and the people that consume these we get a lot of emails and notes back, and people really enjoy it. You know, and people come up to me at work that catch some of our content, and so I just really appreciate you giving us the time and giving other people the time, because it gets out there to people you don't even know, and that's the beauty of it. And I think that it says a lot about your character, and I have a lot of respect for you just from the time with you. And what we've, you know, what in the communication we've had, and also what Mike told us about you, because it's a lot of kids are missing out on somebody like you, and so now they have the opportunity, and I think that's it makes it well worth the trip.
Well, good.
Yeah, so I think I think we're good. Yeah, thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.